We're ready.
Ready. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here. We're 11/12 through the year, and appreciate everyone's participation, and look forward to tonight and this week's meetings. Got a lot on the agenda, but again, appreciate also the weather being nice for it being November. But in any case, we'll call the meeting to order, and we'll go ahead and get started. First, I ask council if there's any adjustments to the agenda. Staff?
Yes, sir. We have 3 items. 2 of them are the same. Closed session at the end of our meeting, 143-318.11A3, to consult with an attorney. 2 separate matters that we'll discuss in closed session there. And also under general business, Andrew and I both have been approached the item, and we'll discuss it, and the item is to consider waiver of existing policy and reference our transportation plan of requiring people to use a transportation company that we're contracted with. I'll be glad to explain more details at that time. This would be 4C.
Okay, so you said 3 items. I got you. Got the waiver, and I got the closed session. Are there 2 items in the closed session?
Yes, sir. And also, we have a possible appointment 4D, Karen Van Fleet, to our, which one? Design Review Board. And I'm just realizing I mispronunciated her last name. Hopefully she won't shoot me. I know her husband went.
All right. Council, you've heard the staff recommended changes to the agenda. If you approve those, we'll do it in one motion. All those in favor of approving the agenda as adopted or as amended, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Yeah, motion.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay. With those amendments, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. Thank you. First item is general business, and we'll start with myself and council members. Start with Mr. Now.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I really don't have anything, just like to wish everyone a healthy and happy Thanksgiving to everyone, all our citizens.
All right. Is that it? Okay. Mr. Jarozinski.
I have no comments at this time.
Mr. Hinkle.
I don't think I need to this time, sir.
Ms. Harris.
The only thing I have to say is I just came back from Maryland and DC, and I would like to tell all the citizens who complain about our traffic to go to DC. You'll never complain about our traffic again. And I thought that leaving at nighttime would be better for us. DC traffic is not good at any time. So anyway, I appreciate our town regardless. So that's all I have to say.
All right, good. Mr. Archer.
I have no comment.
Okay. So a couple of things, I guess, for me. Wishing all those veterans who absolutely have supported our country and honored them on Veterans Day yesterday, and appreciate what they have done, and those who are continuing active duty continue to do. Hopefully everyone had a good Veterans Day in remembrance of those who served in our armed forces. I appreciate council who also supported the staff and thanking them at the staff dinner. Appreciate, as I stated at the luncheon, Mr. Wyatt staying up pretty much all night, making sure that we had the food cooked, and great job. Him and Mr. Taylor.
Tabor.
Is supporting us there. So again, thought it was a good event, but was really in recognition of the staff. So again, thank you all for what you do every day. With that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Wyatt for staff comments.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. I would like to just publicly acknowledge, as we have said before, all of our departments, as our town continues to grow, we try to respond, one, to you all's directives, but more importantly to our citizens as they reach out. A lot of the things that they ask or comment on is not necessarily rise to the level of policy decisions that you all dictate. It is just common sense, value in our community and value our citizens as our budgets allow us to increase certain things. The first one I would like to acknowledge is our flags from each branch of the service that was put in front of Town Hall. Emily Watson and staff made sure to do that so that we could thank all the veterans regardless of which branch they served. And again, it's just incrementally our town adds to the different things that we do. They started this morning. If you look in the room over here near Karen, we've got a lot of stuff, and they started this morning because it takes so long to get all of our Christmas things and decorations out where they need to be. So they've already started putting those here so that other staff can take care of each office that we have, but they've started getting ready to decorate our greenway. It'll take a complete 3-week process. It's not something that can happen overnight, and I appreciate them doing so. Also, the Chief of Public Works and the Rec Department has had several parade meetings already since last year, but I know they had another one today, and we are looking forward to another great Christmas Day parade. But for all of those folks that's out there that represent a group or would like to personally participate in the parade, that's getting real close to being finalized, but there is still time for people to put in and register their entry if they would like to ride through the parade. Couple things that we've had on that, we just want to caution people that the parade tends to run 4 to 6 mile an hour?
About 2 to 4.
2 to 4 mile an hour is the average that the expected flow is. And if you've got young people or animals, probably don't want them out there, and you need to wear the appropriate clothing if you're gonna go the entire route yourself. A lot of folks think the parade leaves them, and then the spectators are angry that they're waiting 5 minutes for the next entry to come through. So we try to coordinate for everybody to be there, the spectators to enjoy a good parade, and that starts with the participants being prepared to ride, drive in the parade. But we're looking forward to another successful one there. And just echoing your comments, Mr. Mayor, I want to also appreciate Emily and staff for putting together our video this year that we posted to the town's social media pages, letting all the veterans know, whether it be football players that was here, cheerleaders, different departments within the town, some folks in the community, to thank our veterans. And that was just another little thing that they did that took a good bit of time to put together, but we got a lot of feedback from it already, and I'm thankful for them for doing so. That's all the comments I have at this time.
Great, thank you. That takes us to the next item.
4C?
4C, waiver of policy Transportation.
Yes, sir. Matt Grant reached out to me today from Grant Jordan. They represent a company who is trying to develop below Lowe's in that complex there before you get to the charter school. The project that they have will necessitate a traffic impact analysis. Once Mr. Grant was hired by the potential developer, he out of normal practice had been using somebody that he was familiar with and had already begun doing the traffic study with them, and then later learned, I don't recall if it was through Andrew or me or the combination, that we have since hired Kimley Horn to do all of our traffic analysis. That way we're on the same page. And they are simply requesting, because of the project starting before we actually made that mandate, that they be grandfathered in to continue the relationship with the company that they have hired to do the TIA, instead of being penalized and making the project basically stop anywhere from 3 months to up to a year. Is that the terminology they've given you also? By having to regroup and then the additional expense of having to start all over with a third-party company. I expressed to them that was not a decision that I could make. It would need to come back before you all for approval or denial of it. Andrew and I do not have any recommendations as to why it should not be allowed, but we are certainly both here if you have any questions. In the transition, anytime we make new policy for us to follow, we have allowed previous ones to be grandfathered in. Again, timing is essential. When did they start the process versus when we changed our policy? And in this case, they clearly started before our policy changed.
So, which project is it?
Do you remember the name of them?
It's just that, it's a site, we haven't gotten official plans yet, but it's that site between basically Lowe's and the new Food Lion.
Okay.
Not in its entirety, but a significant portion.
It's part of the development that the Food Lion's going to be is part of.
It will be connected, yes, sir.
Connected, but it's not part of the development we're talking about here.
Different developer entirely.
How many other pending projects would this affect?
The only ones that I'm familiar with that are in the pipeline already use Kimley Horn, so it would not change anything as far as our policy. Andrew, if he's aware of one, by all means, but the only ones that I'm aware of that hasn't reached that point of officially going forward with a TIA, the ones we are aware of are already engaged with the same company.
So we're not necessarily opening up a can of worms here.
Correct.
Last thing I'd want to do is we just got Kimley and we're basically, I don't have to bench them for 6 months.
Correct.
To let all this clear up.
Correct.
So, okay.
Well, my opinion, he, as you so stated, it sounds to be reasonable in his request. And if they started beforehand, had no idea that we would be passing such a policy. And, I tend to err on the side of understanding and compassion to help someone, especially if we're talking a great deal of time and money involved to go back and redo, and don't want to be onerous. It was not meant to be onerous, meant to be something positive. I see no reason why we shouldn't go ahead and.
With your comments, Councilman Hinkle, I also failed to tell you the most important part of this, I think. Regardless of what their TIA is and who does it, Kimley Horn will still review it to make sure it matches what the town's wishes and desires are. And they understand that will be an expense of theirs, that Kimley Horn still reviews it and agrees with whomever they've hired to do the analysis.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that kind of addresses Jerry's concern. We're still using Kimley Horn.
Yes,
maybe
sir.
as an extension, but we're still using them, so I think that kind of puts partially the lid on that can of worms that, we was concerned about, and they're picking up the extra costs, so, the extra costs to the town. So, I think to me, it sounds reasonable to grant the waiver.
My only concern would be if Kimley Horn was gonna review it, but we didn't make the policy retroactive, so I really don't think it applies, does it? They were already in motion by the time we had passed the new policy, and we didn't say anything under
An additional
development
review?
currently would be
Well,
included in this, so it was a moving forward policy, not a going backwards in anything that had already been started.
if I understand your clarification correctly, under the old policy, they would have done it, and then it goes to planning and zoning for approval. The only thing this does differently than what we have mandated is now, instead of Andrew himself reviewing it, Kimley Horn reviews it and says yes, or do these things.
Yeah.
So they're involved in the process now if you also agree to say, okay. Otherwise, it's the other company's out and Kimley Horn has to start everything from scratch all over.
Yeah.
So I think it still accomplishes our old ways of doing things, and that it's still reviewed before it's finalized. It's just a different person is doing it, so to speak,
Right.
than previous.
I think I understand where you're coming from, and, I appreciate, Jordan Grant Jordan, was it Jordan Grant or Grant Jordan?
Grant Jordan.
Grant Jordan. I appreciate them bringing that to our attention, because as you said, they could, take the position that, yeah, well, I'm grandfathered before and we already got started. I understand where you're coming from. But, they have volunteered to come to us, and I appreciate that. They've agreed to pick up the extra bill to let our people get involved, our engineer, Kimley Horn. So, but yeah, you've got a point, but I think perhaps, we don't have to worry about that.
Right.
Just go ahead and grant the waiver.
Yeah. I don't think it should be an issue.
Is there a motion to approve the waiver?
I would so move, sir.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. Next item is 4D, Design Review Board.
Karen, if you would come up, please. Karen has served us for years as a planning and zoning board member and done a wonderful job. But because of our requirements of inside, outside, ETJ, those things, she unfortunately had to resign because they are temporarily have moved to Mooresville until one development proceeds and they can move back. Is their intentions. It's not a guarantee, but they would gladly like to come back once that item is available for them, for her and her husband. But we do have a position on Design Review Board that needs to be filled and has been vacant for some time. Design Review Board met and spoke with Karen, and of course are recommending that she fill that slot. She's here if you all have any questions of her, but I'm tickled, one, and will say publicly, even though she moved away and resigned, she still is looking for a way to try to serve our Troutman community, and this is one of the ways that she can. And Andrew and I wholeheartedly are in support, but it's you all's decision, and you certainly can ask any questions.
Whose seat was this?
It's not a seat. We had numbers and it never was filled. I don't recall. Design Review Board at one time got down to 3 people, and we're now trying, this will make it a full board again.
Good.
And that's 5, is that 5 members?
I think it's a minimum of 5, but we can have 7, 2 reserves, if I recall correctly.
And right now we're at 4, so Karen would make a full board, which we haven't had since I've been employed with the town.
It's not a flashy, sexy job like planning and zoning and so forth, that Karen's used to. It's kind of mundane and one of those that's, kind of like Parks and Rec Committee at one time, even though they were a wonderful committee. A lot of people didn't know about them, and you know, it's kinda hard to get some memories at one time, but, I agree with our manager's statement. Karen did, a fine job with planning and zoning, very interested, had, you know, done her homework before she came to the meetings and got involved and, tried to make decisions that, were good for the town. And, you know, she's one of those folks that, we may disagree on a little something, but I respect entirely where she's coming from and what she has to say, and she makes me think, and I appreciate that. And so forth, so, being the liaison on VRB, I was unable to be at the last meeting, I'm sorry, but, I'm the liaison there, so you'll see me, I just don't vote, but I come and listen, and once in a while throw in an opinion or two, so forth. But, again, I would heartily recommend that the board, appoint her, to that position, if they would.
Two questions for the public. One is, design review does not have an inside-outside requirement.
It does not. We did away with that requirement earlier this year. We felt like that was one of the things that hampered the board from being able to do its overall job for the best of Troutman. One member in particular is a licensed contractor and has always been one of the members on the committee to comment about the different aesthetic materials that he was familiar with because of his background. We felt like that having insight of those people with that kind of background was more important than saying, hey, they have to live in or live out, and we mix the board up like others. And this one, we're just looking for quality volunteers that have some knowledge of the aesthetics, because most design review cases are just that, is are we using a different siding, are we doing screening, are we doing things to protect the community that will overall blend in and make us a place to talk positively about, versus you see something built and 20 years later you're like, why did they do that? Because it's an eyesore. And as Paul said, I wouldn't say it's as sexy as the Planning and Zoning Board, but I do think they have some very in-depth discussion with people applying to them for variances to mediate some type of satisfactory agreement of how a project can look better. And one example I will use, years ago, up on Iredale Avenue, it was talked about storage buildings coming, and because of our UDO at the time, there was a lot of discussion, is this just going to be metal buildings or not? Design Review Board held to our UDO and it's like, no, you have to build them to where they're not as much of an eyesore, and because of that, the project eventually went away. They just thought it was too costly to build those type units. But that's a perfect example of one can be used to our benefit. Now, the flop side of that is people then argue, well, y'all didn't let them build them metal buildings up, but now you got a concrete company in place, so did we really gain? Well, my opinion is yes. Even though it's a concrete company, you can see the towers. There's also a berm around the property now that would not have been required had it been left the old way. So, yes, I do think it was a step forward, but it's certainly things that we can have. And just like some of the drive-through restaurants and where they're located, the light shining on different people, different things like that's also been discussed there that I think would be very beneficial and can be pretty spirited at times.
Yeah. So I guess the other piece of that, did you cover pay with Ms. Van Fleet?
I did tell her this new role would pay her twice what the old one did.
Okay. I wanted to got that out of the way.
Tax-free too.
If the meeting goes past 5 p.m., time and a half.
Well, it's not gonna go till 11 or midnight.
That's double time that does that.
That's right.
All right, we're good.
I'll simply, if I may, just add on to what the town manager said, that, you know, some of the things we see, you know, and approve on, that the DRB has looked at as far as, appearance, you know, a lot of that, looks good as a result of the DRB. As the town manager made a comment, some things that come before us look a little mundane, and by the time, our members, DRB members get through with it, it's not quite so mundane, and I hope Andrew agrees with me on that. So it's not just we meet and look at it and go, yeah, it looks good. You know, there's discussion and there's reasoning behind, the improvements and, thought given. And, it's a good board, I appreciate them, and they do a good job in my opinion, and as a result, we have, I think, some nice looking structures in town.
The one additional thing to add to those comments, once several of us got here, we had several things previously that were approved, and a lot of this has to do with not only the UDO, but also DRB's recommendation that you plant screens of some type. And even though those were plans that were approved or directed to be followed, we found several properties that were not in compliance. For example, they would plant whatever kind of tree, but it was dead when they planted it, and then 6 months, a year later, they'd take the tree out and not plant anything back. With Andrew and the code enforcement officer we have now, we're going back to places and say, hey, it might have been 20 years ago it's approved, but you still got to put this tree back now that you've cut it down, or could be simple storm damage. It's not necessarily negligence on the property's fault, but it could be people thought, well, it went away and I can see better without it, but they have to go back to the original plans, and they are doing that. And some of the DRB members pointed out to us, hey, I was driving by so-and-so, they still don't have this right yet. So there's absolutely a necessity for us having them, and then having quality people on there that will take that to heart, to pass on to us as staff, so that we can make sure everybody's following what they're supposed to. You're here.
So, it's on our agenda for Thursday. Ms. Van Fleet, any questions for the board?
No, none of them. I do want to say thank you for your support of veterans. I am a spouse of a retired 22-year veteran and the mother of 2 active duty service members, so thank you very much.
Thank you for your service. Absolutely.
Okay, appreciate it.
Thank you, Karen.
Thanks.
You're welcome to stay with us.
Eric's waiting out for me in the car.
Please tell the Colonel I said hello.
I will. You'll have a good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, the next item on the agenda is a review of our meeting on Thursday. Turn it over to Mr. White.
With this new Granica system, I don't get my little cheat sheets of errors, so I apologize. Thursday's night's regular agenda, of course, what we just discussed, Kim will place in the appropriate order on there. Going to item number 6, amendments and approval to the agenda. That's up to you all. Number 7 is the consent agenda. The first 3 items are considered normal business. Item 7D, consider approval of DRB facade for South 50 Main Street. The Design Review Board met and made the recommendations. Andrew, you want to touch base on that briefly?
Yeah, this is proposed to be a new animal hospital in the front of the Norman Creek development, one of those out parcels. And it's it's Statesville Animal Hospital, which I just read today is celebrating its 50-year anniversary or something. It's the same owner. So this is a proven business that's been in Ardell County for a while, and this is just going to be another, basically another veterinary office in town.
Sorry, what did you say? This is, you said it's been in the county of 50 years?
Statesville Animal Hospital.
Statesville Animal Hospital. It's the same owner. He's just opening up a second location down here.
Okay, okay, all right, okay.
And the name will be?
It's,
The sign says Statesville Animal Hospital, but we're telling them to come up with something
no,
more creative.
they're actually planning on calling it South Main Street Animal Hospital.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, I did, okay.
Yeah, we don't need that name.
Yeah.
We don't need to have the name come down the pipe.
I know my friends in Statesville would love to have that, but it's okay.
Did y'all have any more questions, Andrew, on that? Item 7E, another facade approval recommended by the Design Review Board is for the Quick Trip, which is adjacent to the Dunkin' Donuts Baskin Robbins. Andrew?
Yep, this is, as town manager said, it's adjacent to the Dunkin' Donuts Baskin Robbins. It's a Quick Trip, mainly just a fueling station, convenience store, typically what you see with other Quick Trips in the region. This one is actually one of the projects that's gone through our new TIA process. I just figured I'd bring that up since we discussed that a couple minutes ago. And DRB did make a couple of recommendations to the facade here with adding some glazing and some other elements. So pretty confident with the design that the DRB ultimately went ahead and recommended for you all.
Any questions?
Where is adjacent?
So basically, if you're looking straight forward at where Dunkin' is, it'll be on the left-hand side.
Toward the interstate?
Yeah. The issue right now Quick Trip has is their proposed entrance to the site would be basically a continuation of the northbound off-ramp.
I was just going to ask that.
And so that's between federal highway and DOT. There's still some issues that Quick Trip's got to work through. So right now the ball's in basically NCDOT's court, but once they get any kind of permission to go ahead and get a curb cut there, I think we'll start seeing some activity on that site.
But they're also planning to use, is that?
Yep, continue home improvement.
Home improvement,
Yep,
right.
over.
Correct.
That's right.
Any other questions?
So that would completely block any change of that on-ramp in that location?
I don't know that it would block any change, because DOT's already had two plans that I'm aware of to alter or reconfigure what those on-ramps and exit ramps are. And that will be part of the process that they're going through now to either allow or reconfigure whatever they're wanting to do, so that when they do come in and reconfigure those ramps, that it will not be a business that they have to buy out to do.
And it's my understanding that with, if there's ever a new northbound on-ramp that makes sense, DOT's already purchased that area it needs from the property owner. So I
Okay,
don't
so
think
Quick Trip won't be encroaching on anything like that?
Right.
It's a terrible on-ramp.
Any other questions, comments? Item 7F, annexation request by Howard Colberth. This is simply off Timberlake Drive. This is simply a request to direct the clerk to investigate, and that's what that is. Any questions or comments?
Is that the gentleman that appeared before us, yes, last month or so?
2 months ago, yes.
2 months ago, okay.
Yes. This is the one we went ahead and provided water to, understanding that he would make the petition to come in and ask for annexation into the town limits.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Is he hooked up with water already?
Yes, sir.
Did we allot a certain amount of time for that to happen?
No, sir. It was expressed, and I don't remember the exact verbiage, but it was expressed that he'd take care of it as soon as possible. There was miscommunications on his understanding of what that meant, but it has been corrected, and that's why it's on the agenda now. Item number 8 will be our town employee of the month.
And I reject one on the recognitions and presentations. I shared, or I received a request to do a National Apprenticeship Week, which is November 17th through the 23rd.
I'm sorry, the what?
National Apprenticeship Week.
Okay.
So we'll do that proclamation. Kim, I'll share with you the document. We probably need to make sure that, I think it might say that, I think Mr. White pointed out, it said City of Troutman or something like that, but we just need to make sure it's correct.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Item number 9, ABC will be here for their standing quarterly report. We have no old business unless you all recall something I have failed to note. Number 11, new business. This will be annexation request certain properties totaling 103.73 acres. The applicants are combined Rogers, Thompson, and Millsaps. And it will basically connect a couple subdivisions, Falls Cove Phase 7, also, what did they officially call their project off of 21? At
Norman Creek.
Barkdale Road, Norman Creek, Falls Cove 7, it will connect all three. And this annexation and rezoning, if approved, which is the next item, would allow there to be multiple ingress, egress, regardless of which neighborhood you lived in. The two to be constructed and Falls Cove 7 around Flower House Loop, to where everybody could basically come and go without getting on Highway 21, even though it's residential neighborhoods. The one thing that I do know, a couple of you all have been approached, and if the annexation's passed and the rezoning is requested, I know there will be a citizen here Thursday that just simply requests that there be some stipulation put in place to where the chief and a lot of us get normal complaints now of developments under construction trucks driving through certain neighborhoods to get to them. In this case, a citizen plans on coming and saying, hey, due to Falls Cove should be completed within a year, year and a half, can we make it some type of stipulation that they understand no construction traffic come through their neighborhoods for the new part that would be better accessed either by Flower House Loop through Apple Hill Road or Barkdale Road or Highway 21, just so you all know what will be coming forth on that. Any other questions, Andrew, I can answer on either the annexation request or rezoning request? The one thing I will say about the rezoning, and Andrew will have this in his report before you all Thursday, is the units proposed to be built is well under what is normally, most developers we have are trying to push that number a little bit over, and this one is well under the units per acre build requirement in our land use plan.
I have a question. In the past, there was an issue with construction in that development, right? And they had to put up construction gates. I think it was like phase 3 or 4 of Falls Cove.
There was no issue. What happened and what was requested that the developer agreed to do at the time Falls Cove 2 through 7 was proposed. That gentleman, and none of us except the mayor and Paul Hinkle were here at those times. Basically, in negotiating between planning and zoning board, town council, and the new developer who had bought bankrupt property, it was agreed that he would leave the construction gates up until a certain amount was built in the new phases. So it was not a previous issue that caused an issue. It only became an issue once they reached those numbers. Then some people didn't want the construction gates open until the streets were completely finalized. But we did follow the plans that were agreed upon mutually, that once the main entrance in Falls 2 was built from entrance to exit, that gate was taken down. Did that answer?
I think so. I mean, would there be any reason that we wouldn't require such a gate at the end of Streamwood as this neighborhood is built?
I think that's you all's choice, but it certainly would be appropriate that we require the developer, once they have the rough street to that point, that they keep a gate up until, correct me if I'm wrong, Andrew, but the fire marshal, once there is 100 units built, I think would require that they have at least 2 exits, entry, forth. If I understand the way they're developing this property, there will be without even opening that gate. So depending on that plan that they present to you all Thursday of the initial concept, I think it's appropriate question you ask, but if I understand the development correctly, you all can dictate at whatever, whether it be 100 or whether it be 250 before it's open or the streets are finalized. Our town part of it, we don't want construction vehicles driving through newly paved streets that we are gonna have to maintain. We're not looking to penalize anyone else. However, I think we certainly can set that up by you all's choice. If Andrew can and has time, he can review it and maybe make a recommendation, or he and I can speak to the developer to button that up before you all have to consider it Thursday to say, hey, we don't want construction traffic driving through, so how can we prohibit that until whatever number's in place?
Just trying to delay Streamwood dragway as long as possible.
I think it's a great point. I mean, it's definitely gonna come up.
Yeah.
But
And
something Andrew can.
I touched base with the fire marshal this morning, and basically, after they exceed that 100 homes, if the development's still under construction, which this particular development's recommending something like 250, so the fire marshal's okay with having a temporary entrance, so long as they just have two ways they can get their vehicles in there.
Right.
So, you know, if you were to determine that you don't want to keep that false code connection, you know, until you get past 100 homes or so, so long as the fire marshal works with the developer to approve a second temporary entrance, they're okay with that.
So there will be a connection on Parkdale.
Yes, sir.
Well,
Should be.
There's a stub, so this property doesn't touch Barkdale, but it stubs out to the north, so if Barkdale develops, the rest of the Millstead's property.
Okay.
It's dependent upon the Rocky Creek development, right? Or that connection.
It could be, because there is a stub on the south of the Rocky Creek development.
Right now, it's just, you got the two entrances, Apple Hill Road and Streamwood, those are the two entrances. And, you know, I was asking, you know, even though we would say, you know, 200 homes have to be built before we remove the gate, there would have to be something, I'm sure, we'd have to work out with the fire marshal after 100. The fire truck could get around, you know, maybe the construction wouldn't be able to do that, but the fire people would. I mean, I know they were talking about this over there here where I live, you know, and where that gate could be opened quickly if needed for emergency reasons, whatever that might
Right.
be, and that was fine. And then it's closed back, so that people just can't use it willy-nilly. There's got to be an emergency reason to do it, and I would think something like that, if, again, council so desire, would be appropriate for the Streamwood road, street.
And I'm thinking there was, even at some point, it was just I don't know, there was a gate on one of those entrances, but it was, I won't say a berm, but it was a gravel. So if you know, wanted to drive over, it was pretty high, so.
Initially, 100% correct. They had the berm and a gate.
Yeah.
Then once the rough road was put in, they took the berm out.
Yeah.
Just as Councilman Hinkle said, in case needed for emergency,
Yeah.
then it could be open. The police chief, planning department, and emergency response knew the code, but nobody else did.
Now, this, again, and, you know, obviously, I think it's all of our concerns were, number one, a neighborhood being disturbed, in an irresponsible way by construction traffic, and, number two, the roads itself that are, you know, already there and, you know, good shape, and you've got this heavy traffic day in and day out going over them. You know, those are the two concerns, I'm sure, that have to be addressed in some way.
Yes, sir. Any other questions, comments on that one? The next one is 11E, annexation request, applicant Impression Homes LLC, 2.445 acres. It's 149 Pinewood Road. Andrew?
This is just a single property in ETJ that they're building a single-family home and are requesting town water and sewer. So per policy, they're required to annex into town.
Any questions, comments? 11D, rezoning request, Leon Bowens Jr., 18.171 acres off Murdoch Road. This is beside the CATS facility. If you're going out Murdoch Road, it'll be on the right after CATS facility. Basically, a lot of locals call that the Goose Landing area. You can look down and see the pond, and the geese are normally plentiful there during certain crop times of years. There is no specific interest or intentions to develop or move the property. They just simply would like to have it rezoned in case at some point in time in the future that occurs. We'd be glad to answer any other questions you may have.
And I believe, not trying to steal anybody's thunder, but I believe that's, follows the land use plan.
Yes, sir.
At that area for that potential use of the property.
Their rezoning classification request absolutely follows our UDO and has since I can't remember now if it's 84 or 87. It's been that many years, yes. Uh, 11E, text amendment. Applicant CI 77 wants to amend the use matrix of 3.31 in Article 13 to allow data centers in the heavy industrial districts and add a definition of what data centers are. Andrew?
Yeah, and I'm glad the applicant will be there Thursday night because they have a better take on what a data center is than I do. But it's basically a large-scale technological facility where they host servers. It could be web-based stuff. So it's pretty much a large-scale. Think of a warehouse building with just computer-type stuff in there. And so one good thing about these data centers is they're not generators of truck traffic. So if we're alleviating some of the truck traffic that we may have had in an HI property with something that doesn't generate traffic, you know, it's a win for everybody. But anyway, we'll have the applicant here on Thursday night, and they'll be able to kind of answer more questions and explain it a little bit more accurately. So,
I have a question. This is to allow, right, you know, data centers, but what I'm concerned with is added definition of data centers. That part of the, where will the definition be originating from?
it was, the applicant submitted the definition from basically the industrial codes that are well-known. I think they're the NAICS codes. So it's my understanding the definition came directly from that.
Kind of a boilerplate type definition, if you will.
Yes, sir.
Well, that's terrifying.
But by the industry.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. The one thing I will add to this, they all vary greatly. But more common than not, data centers tend to use a lot of water because they want to keep the insides cool. And one of the best methods they have done that does that is recirculating water. We have not gotten an official response from Statesville yet on our request to revisit water controls. We have no communications from these folks as to what, if any, amount of water they would like to use if this is passed. So we are fine, but we also will be better once we get responses from Statesville on where we're at with our agreements that we have asked for.
May I add that the town manager and I were at the last EDC meeting that was held down at the, I guess, planning center on Houston Road, Lowe's. And this was a topic that was discussed extensively as up and coming already here. I say here, talking about the nation. And it's, you know, something of the future. And as town manager mentioned, much water and much power. Of course, ours situation would be much water and due to be the power, but it is something that I guess we do need to plan for, as being asked for, and again, it's non-polluting, just uses a lot of natural resource in terms of water and power and so forth. So, you know, it's something we've got to deal with and prepare for, and I think, you know, done correctly, it would be an asset to the town. You know, again, EDC is, seems to be positive about it, and it's gonna be something that not only us, but the county is gonna be involved, not only Troutman, but Statesville, Mooresville, and the county. And, the Statesville town manager, Statesville city manager was there, so, he's well aware of this and so forth, so hopefully we would, get favorite terms out of that, if it comes this way, and they're being aware of it and so forth. So that's just a few things I want to throw out there for the call.
You said the county was excited about it?
Well, no one spoke in opposition, let me put it that way.
Is that what they're gonna do with the fairgrounds?
You doing a stir this afternoon?
Yeah.
Item 11F, text amendment TA 2409, applicant is the town of Troutman. We're asking that you all amend Article 9.4.5, engineering document and improvement plan review process, to add a periodic review of surety bonds for development projects. And let me be more specific there. As you all know, just because we approve projects do not mean that they are built within a year. We are finding that many are taking a minimum of 5 years before construction starts, and it may be 10 years before it's built out medium-wise. Depending on the ebb and flows of the economy, what Andrew and I have found with one project in particular that we have directed our town attorney to proceed with collecting the bonds is that once these projects are a certain amount old, then the bond no longer covers all the work that needs to be done if they did not complete it on their own. So this is simply allowing the town to further protect itself by doing a periodic review of all bonds and all pending projects to make sure that there's enough funds to complete whatever they failed to do themselves. Any other questions? 11G, consider removal of the requirement that no one person can serve on the ABC board longer than 8 continuous years of service. As I stated in my manager's notes, in a previous open meeting, the town council at the time stated that they would follow the maximum term of 8 years of service for an ABC board appointment. We have many other boards and positions, as you all know, that there is no such requirement. I think the intent at the time on the ABC board was to alter people in and out so that certain people did not just stay there forever. The town clerk continually, we have it on the town message board, asking people to volunteer and serve our various boards and capacities. As we'll go to the next item, 11D, you would reconsider appointment if you agree to waive that 8-year process. And per the clerk, it was never a defined policy for us to follow, but it was stated in an open meeting that that's what they would like to do. But we have had no one apply for the ABC boards, and those, just like all the others, have been open for people to apply. But our current chair of the ABC board, his term will come up to expire shortly. He is the only one that has shown interest and is more than willing to serve again. However, he did not want to violate any policy that the town has, and he wanted there to be full disclosure that this would be his 8th year. So it's up to you all to waive it, as it's not required on other boards, or you can stand by it, and that board will only have 2 people until and if we get a 3rd person qualified to fill it.
I simply add, Layton, as most of us know, has done a wonderful job since the inception of the ABC board, and I would wholeheartedly ask, because I don't know if I'm going to be here Thursday night or not at this point, but I would wholeheartedly ask that the council, if I'm not here, approve him, waive and approve. And as town manager mentioned, that policy was set up back at the inception of ABC board, wanting to have the diversity in and out and so forth. over a period of time, but, reality is that, as he has stated, that there's just not that many applicants, and, we already have a gentleman coming up here that's continues to do a wonderful job, and I hate to lose that asset and that talent, that experience, so, if I'm not here, I would, ask that the council to seriously consider waiving the policy and reappointing, Mr. Getzinger.
Thank you. 11E,
Mr. Wyatt, what's the number of board members currently?
3.
3.
Yes, sir.
What's the last name of Kim? Kim's the third one. Kim, is it?
Cabin.
Kevin, thank you.
Mhm. Any other questions? 11E, consider reappointment of Hap Williams and Daryl Nance to the Design Review Board. If it's okay with the town council, I would like to also add either as part of 11E or make it 11F. I'm sorry, 11F is down there. She's already got it. Consider appointment of Karen Van Fleet to the Design Review Board. Hap and Daryl, to my knowledge, are the longest serving board members we have on DRB. Both have construction backgrounds. Both have license to do a lot of other than mundane things. Be glad to answer any questions of me or Andrew if y'all have them of these individuals. And of course, 11F, you met Karen earlier and we discussed that. If there's any other questions you all have, I'll be glad to address them. Otherwise, that concludes the briefing for our Thursday agenda.
Any other questions on Thursday night? Okay. If not, we will move over to closed session. Accept the motion pursuant to General Statutes 138, 318, 11A3.
Make that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, who do we need in the room?
The clerk, the police chief, and our town council, and you all.
Attorney?
Yes, sir.
See ya.
Get out.
I'm gonna write the check. And we may need money for this.
You'll ask me more.
Turn it off and